What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Property Management Roundtable. Today, we're going to talk about COVID-19, all things having to do with issues that we're facing from the front lines as property managers. We're going to talk about the number one gift we feel like you can give friends in your work, tips for building culture when you're in different places. Obviously, that's relevant right now. How to build a property management mastermind or roundtable of industry experts. What we're worried about, what's keeping us up at night, and guess what? We're not letting them do it COVID related. And what are our big, hairy, audacious goals? That all is covered today on our first ever episode of the Property Management Roundtable. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome, everybody, to episode 1 of the Property Management Roundtable. I've got the Wolfpack here, and we are talking all things property management, current events, COVID-19, all the craziness that's going on. What's up, guys?
What's up?
Hey there.
Hey, everybody. What's up?
Let's jump right into some COVID-19 stuff. Can you guys give me an update on your collections, how things are going? Tim, why don't you start us off?
Things are going pretty well. I mean, there's two schools of thought really. You've got the doomsday folks, and then you've got the positive people. I think I'm probably somewhere in between. But I've been pretty surprised by the resiliency of our staff during this whole thing and their agility. We were obviously changing all of our processes from leasing to maintenance. Almost daily. So the way that they've been able to adjust has been really good. In terms of collections, it was a lot better in April than I thought it was going to be. I'll tell you that. I think we are about 1.5 percentage points off of where we usually are as far as delinquency at this point in time, at least on the single family side. Obviously the retail, and I'll let Duke maybe hit on that because he's in it a little bit more than I am on a daily basis. But it's been pretty good. I know you've got your feelings about what moving forward is going to look like. But I think, people in Virginia were getting their checks last week, so hopefully they're going to spend it on rent and groceries.
That's awesome. Mike, what about you guys down in Orlando?
We're doing pretty good also. I think collections are better than anticipated. Early, I think everybody kind of got some, doomsday messages, heard potentially 50% delinquencies, and then that continued to kind of decrease over time. You and I and the guys on this podcast have been in constant communication, and we kind of, as we got closer to April, our expectations, started going up in terms of, us being able to collect rent. I think that's ultimately what happened. We are currently at about 4% delinquent, so we're about 96% collected, which is definitely off from our normal collections. We usually close out the month with less than 1% delinquency. We're still hopeful that we'll probably be able to get down to the 2% because we've still got people who are getting that stimulus check in. But I think overall much better. I think that just in general, I think we all kind of prepared for the worst, and because of that, it feels better than what we were kind of anticipated. So I think it's good in the end. Ultimately, feels a lot better.
Vince, I'm going to ask you a little bit different question. How do you feel like May and June? It seems like very positive news coming out of April. Everybody's kind of turning their focus. We're recording this at the end of April. What is the internal dialogue at Mind about May and June's rent?
Yeah, so in general, I'll answer the previous question. We're typically our trailing 12 is 3.73. And we're currently at 7.26. And keep in mind, this is nationwide. So I think our internal dialogue about May is specifically, it's regionally focused. For example, in the Bay Area, the eviction moratorium was extended. So now it's 90 days out from when the shelter in place is lifted. And the courts are talking about 120 days out from there. So I think generally we echo what you guys were saying about, we were surprised with how April turned out, a little concerned with May. There's about 100 residents that we haven't heard anything from, at all. So most everybody's been really cooperative. Our owners have been cooperative. We're kind of all in this together, but there's a select subset of our residents who've been completely silent. So we're hoping that the folks who've been cooperative will continue to be cooperative. We're just concerned about the folks that are kind of going radio silent on us.
And Duke,
especially, yeah, and especially in markets that are the eviction moratorium's changing quickly.
And Duke, switching from residential to commercial, what are you seeing from a commercial standpoint? I think that there's more blood and guts in the commercial world.
Yeah, I mean, retail is by far the hardest hit sector. You can understand why. If you're closed, you're probably not going to pay rent. So, anywhere from 20 to 55% of retail tenants paid rent, depending on what type of retail you have, which is tough. That's the bad news. Office space, most office folks are paying rent, but you're starting to see like how different layers of progression of how the different office users are getting affected by this. At first it was none, then it was some, then it's going to be eventually be all the office users will be affected in some way. But what gives me, comfort is that lenders understand that, and lenders are working with landlords, so landlords can work with tenants. And so everybody's playing nice in the sandbox because they have to really. If people keep saying we're all in this together, and people are tired of that line, but it is true in commercial real estate. Like you can't be. If you're a lender, what are you going to do? You're going to foreclose on your borrower and then have an empty building for 2 years. It makes no sense. So everybody's been playing nicely together so far.
What are you seeing, Duke, from some of the owners that own not just retail, but even own homes, some of your clients? What are they doing? Are they reaching out to their mortgage companies? Are they having conversations with them about mortgage deferment?
Yeah, I mean, if you have like a Fannie or Freddie loan, it's clear, it's public what those guys are doing. And if you're in Virginia, VHDA is a huge multifamily lender, and they have their guidelines. This is what we're doing. And for the most part, it's up to 90 days mortgage forbearance and up to 90 days interest only after that. And as you go down the ladder to community banks, they're kind of looking at what the big guys are doing and kind of following suit. So if your property is not affected at all by this, there's probably no change. If your property is affected a lot, they're asking for some kind of proof or explanation, and then they're working into a solution that will fit.
Tim, you mentioned changing some processes to deal with coronavirus. Talk to me a little bit about some of the processes that are changing as we kind of wear on with this quarantine stuff.
Yeah, well, I guess that question could be taken a number of different ways. Long-term changing, short-term changing. I think some of our policies around leasing are going to change a lot, and that's going to be based on, I think this is going to be around for a long time, and it's going to change the way we do business. There's going to be a lot fewer handshakes. There's going to be a lot fewer people. We used to do group showings where you get 10, 15 people, and creates a little bit of a stir of competitiveness to try to show a property and get it leased. Probably not going to be doing that anymore. Probably going to be showing occupied properties a little bit less. So, I think everything from top to bottom, we're really rethinking, including things like our work from home policy. I feel like we're going to be a lot more flexible. Not that we were super stringent on people being in the office, before this, but now you realize how much you can get done. Obviously, you miss the camaraderie and miss some of the stuff that happens at the office. That, frankly, that's why I go to the office is to get that feeling. So you miss some of that, but I could work from home one day a week and probably be pretty efficient. And I'm wondering how many of my people could do the same thing, because I've seen our work output actually increase quite a bit.
Mike, you were shaking your head. Yes. Tell me what's changing with regard to y'all and some policies you're seeing change.
I'd say probably similarly, we've been resistant to allow people to work from home, but I think this has kind of opened our eyes to the productivity that can be had. It's still a pretty short sample set. So we're looking at, a couple of weeks. What would happen after 6 months? Would people still be accountable? Would as many people log on to the remote Zoom calls every day? So it'd be interesting to see what happened over time. But I do agree. And I think it's going to I think that's probably going to have a pretty profound effect on office space and occupancies in office environments over time.
Hey, Mike, sorry,
yeah.
I don't know, Matthew, if you want to ask all the questions, but I'm interested.
You start asking. It's a round table.
Did you, it's our first show, so we're figuring it out.
We're learning.
Training wheels are still on, everybody.
That's right. Did you change your KPIs? Because I found like the way we handle our daily tasks because of that work from home policy, like we've started to shift mindsets. Like, okay, we got there and everybody was doing work from home because they felt inspired to do so because we're all in it together. And I think Duke mentioned, like, now there's a little bit of people are getting tired of the phrase and they're tired of their kids and their spouses and all that. So we actually, the last couple of weeks, we've changed.
Not people, yeah.
No, I mean other people.
Other
none
people
of us.
we've heard.
Other people, to be clear, yes, other people. But so we actually changed the way we did KPIs, and so now we do like daily things. Like every morning, you've got to send your manager your 3, we call them MVPs now. So like these are the 3 things that I have to get accomplished today, and we're putting our spreadsheet that's got our KPIs in there. We're doing that daily instead of weekly now. Did you guys do anything similar?
Not yet, but it sounds like we should. It sounds like that those things sound a lot like Matthew's morning huddles. And
yeah,
so something that's, yeah, absolutely. I like the idea. We haven't changed any KPIs yet. We are actively talking about it. We've had our 24K meeting this morning, and we talked about just that. Maybe changing. Some of the things we're thinking about doing is customer service related KPIs and adjusting some of those and adding some of those. But at this point, we haven't yet.
And Michael, to your point, working from home is working fine. The pendulum swung this way, but like, what's the downside to that? And in our business, I think the downside to constantly working from home is, like to Tim's point, lack of camaraderie. And like over the years, I've watched some people that have stayed here. Wow, our business is a tough business, right? And I remember thinking to myself, why is this person still here? I hear him on a tough phone call, or I hear him having a bad day. And then I'll look, and like 5 minutes later, they're laughing and joking with the people around them. And like, that's the reason they're still here, right? It's not because of me or Tim. It's because of like the people that they sit next to, that they're friends with, like, and they're there for them in tough times. And so I think that's like the pendulum will start to swing back a little. And working from home is great for me right now, but will I'll be tired of it in 6 months, probably. So, that will be interesting to see how the pendulum swings back.
I think also too there, dude, though, like you're talking about hearing conversations that go on the sidelines, right? So that's part of the culture piece that all of us is pretty important at our companies that you're going to miss out on. So how does that affect, overall our business, and how does that affect our ability to keep our culture strong when you don't have those sideline conversations, water cooler conversations, and joking conversations? They take place digitally. You probably have multiple group chats going on with your team, that kind of thing. But it's not the same, and it's not. You don't get the full vibe of the company culture.
I think we also now have the benefit of the quarantine too, right? Like, there's not a lot of things for people to do. It's not like you can go to a movie, you can't go shopping. So everybody kind of feels like, well, I've watched enough Netflix, I might as well work. What's going to happen once all those distractions come back? Now, you could say that their family is a distraction. Not that ours is, but that other people's family are a distraction. But when these opportunities to go do things come back, are people still going to be as committed to being disciplined with getting their work done? That's where those great KPIs come in.
Also, are they going to be as committed to working out? Like, you guys all are working out way more than you ever have before.
That's not true. That's not true.
That's just me, Mike.
That was a selfless promotion just to tell everybody that you're winning our Whoop challenge.
Mikey, take your shirt off, please. Go ahead.
I mean, Mike was sending us shirtless pictures of himself. I woke up to that Saturday morning. Before and after.
That's actually true.
Who gets before and after pictures wrong? Like, who puts the before picture on the right and the after picture on the left? My wife was like, she looked at him and she was like, did he get fat? I was like, no, he's showing that he got skinny.
Is he bragging about getting fat? That's awesome. Great question.
So it might make sense to actually explain why we're all flashing our wrists.
Yeah.
Thank Vince. Kudos to Vince for giving me the best gift I ever got from a work comrade.
It's made me realize that I need to become a runner just so I could keep up with you guys. So I'm getting some new running shoes, and I'm going to hit the pavement hard.
Yeah, when you start measuring things, like we all get pretty competitive.
Yeah, I think we're actually talking about that. So for those of you who are listening, and we don't need to talk about this for very long, but what we're wearing is called a Whoop strap, and it's basically a activity tracker. It's kind of like a Garmin or a Fitbit or an Apple Watch that tracks how much activity you do throughout the day, how much you work out. Then it also tracks recovery and sleep. So it's a little more in depth than you might get, or The data is very easy to look at through the app. It's very simple. And it tells you kind of how you're doing. And then it compares you, and you compete against the other people who wear the same exact wearable strap. In a clever sales tactic, Vince sent us all these so that he could track us and keep track of what we're doing. It's backfired because I think he's last on the activity scale right now. But I do think it's a great idea. And my business partner, Adam, and I have actually talked about it recently. We're going to start giving these out as gifts to people in the industry, people that we work with, because it's kind of fun to be able to compete. I mean, we all talk about it. We all compete within the industry. You want to see other people succeed, but at the same time, especially your friends and the people you've gotten close to, but you also want to beat them. You know what I mean? Like, none of us are like, God, I really hope I come in second to Matthew one day and my company is the second biggest, So I think it's a great tactic and a great way to keep up with friends and people in the industry that you want to work with down the road. So pretty cool. Good thinking, man.
It certainly drives our conversations from an iMessage standpoint. Thank goodness all you guys are on iMessage.
Oh, my God.
Mike,
right,
I think
go ahead.
I think that just to close out the kind of company culture, work from home thing. Sorry that I'm intrigued by this topic. That's why I want to get y'all's opinions on it. But I would think that our relationship is kind of a microcosm of why you can still have company culture, not just around the water cooler. Like, we all, except for Duke and I, we all live in very different places around the country, but we text every day. We see videos every day. We send pictures. Like, we have the Whoop thing, and like, to me, that's a culture. And I think I'm fearful of that same thing as well, because I get my mojo from being around other people, but I think you can accomplish it. It's just going to change.
Well,
that's the caveat. You're right. Caveat to that is we met in person, and then we had experiences in person, and then we're able to stay in contact digitally. So like, our people that are G-chatting and texting each other now, they form some bond in person. So you can still
do
it less often through staffings and other things, but I think there's still some benefit from being in close proximity, but
But as you get to the only inverse of that is you get to scale and you're in different markets like Mind is and we are. You're not gonna, if somebody's in Denver and somebody's in Birmingham, you're not gonna be in the same office all the time. So you have to learn how to build culture remotely. And we're all taking full advantage of remote team members down in Mexico. We have about 25 people that we work with that are, sometimes I think they're better GK Houses team members than we are. And they have more culture than we do. And they get together and have dinner and, do a whole bunch of different things. So you're right. I mean, culture, but you have to be intentional about it when you're dealing remotely. You have to be very thoughtful and intentional. Whereas sometimes when you're as electric as you guys are, it just happens at an office. You got like a Jay-Z poster and right behind you, you just know you're cool and good things happen.
So that's a good point. That'd be a KPI that we might want to think about implementing. Like, at least you as a leader, how many times do you take something offline or, reach out to team members to talk about something other than what's going on in the company Zoom call? Might be
we've like Doug now, he sends out a daily video to the whole company. Because we have employees all across the world now. And so he'll do a daily video. It kind of has gotten more raw, like we see into Doug's life every day. So we'll start the day with a daily message from Doug. And then twice a week, we do lunch, like lunch hour with a random select group. So like last week I had lunch with two of our folks in Mexico, someone in Arizona, someone in Denver. And so we all got together on a Zoom. The time difference makes it challenging, but I wouldn't have had that opportunity prior to this happening. Like, we would have never done that. So it was kind of cool to do that. The water cooler talk, we open up from 12 to 1 every day, and we do it Pacific time. We just have like an open Zoom that anyone could jump in the whole company. It's evolving, but like, people will just pop in and you'll just hear folks kind of with the water cooler talk. The challenge there is getting people to actually do it.
You do that daily, you said?
Yeah, it's open from 12 to 1 daily for anyone to just jump in.
It's doing that weekly, and it feels too much. Not too much, but run out of things to say weekly. I guess but it's not led by the daily thing. Is not led by management. It's just free.
Yeah, it's just open. The only thing that's led by management is the weekly lunches. We just do one lunch a week.
Yeah.
That's actually a good idea, though.
I like the lunch thing too. Yeah.
Y'all kind of hit on this. Let's talk about like good things that are coming out of this COVID. Obviously, we're inventing new ways to build culture. What are some other good things you're seeing coming out of this COVID crisis?
One person per golf cart is the best thing that's come out of it, and I hope that continues.
No way. You like that?
I love it, man.
Oh, it's so weird.
I go right to my ball. You play around an hour faster. You can listen.
If that makes it so that you actually have to watch where your ball finishes, so that you don't have to ask me every time, then I'm all for it.
It's a win-win, Tim. Win-win.
That's fine. Jeez Louise, man. Where is it?
What are you seeing, Mikey? What's something good coming out of this?
PPP loans that are forgivable.
Nice. Let's don't switch and talk about that yet.
Yeah.
Vince, what are you seeing good?
One question that I want to ask, and we can finish with this one. I don't really have a great thing that's coming out of it. I don't know. I guess one thing I would say is, like, I do like seeing everybody work together. So many different companies, especially early on. Eventually it became a little overwhelming. But I love seeing the emails from all the different business leaders here in Orlando and even across the country on what they were doing to come together to get through this. So it's really, that's one positive thing that's come from it, is everybody is willing to work together. We all are in this together. Nobody wants to see this thing, take us down. So that was kind of cool early on. And I loved seeing the thought process of all those leaders. And those messages almost came from the leaders of that organization all the time. So I enjoyed that. I do want to find out what you guys don't want to see change coming out of this, because everybody keeps talking about the long-term changes. Like, what do you want to see go back to, us go back to? I'd love to hear that from you guys too.
Like,
we
people like having to pay rent and having to pay mortgages.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about, like, everybody I heard the guy say that like the handshake's going to go away, right?
Yeah.
Because of the fact that it's past time. It's from the medieval times, and you shook hands so that you could tell if the guy had a broadsword behind his back, right? I mean, to me, the handshake is something I don't want my children to grow up without. So I hope it comes back. I'm a physical person. I like giving people hugs. I'm going to be really sad if that stuff does not come back. And I think it's too ingrained for, a habit forming, situation where a month or 2 or 3 even passes that it goes away completely. And it'll be awkward. It's going to be awkward for a while, but I really want us to get back to shaking hands and looking each other in the eyes, because to Duke's point earlier, we met in person. That's where all of us met. If we didn't have that foundation, if we didn't have those lunches and those dinners together, our bond wouldn't be nearly as strong as it is today if it was all Zoom meetings. So.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, for us, it would just be, we were just getting out of no man's land. Duke's famous for, I always give him credit for giving me the book that I didn't sleep for 12 months after reading. But we were just getting out of no man's land and starting to really cash flow, and money was building in the account. And then here comes PPP 5 months later. So that's what I'd like to get back to, is some sense of normalcy and cash flow. Now, we're closing out March still, and about to end up with April. So it'll be interesting to see how our cash flow is, given all these new kind of no late fees, a bunch of different things we can't do.
Yeah, the things I've noticed, like, there's a lot of webinars and hear like what's going to come out of this and stay, like, in multifam and other parts of real estate, and focus on sanitization, right? People are going to keep wiping down handrails and all that after this. Self showings, I think some folks are already doing it, some are not, some are half and half. I think if you do a lot of self showings through lockboxes and it works, you're probably going to keep doing that. That's probably pretty obvious. The two things that for me that have been different, that we've been forced to do more videos to team members, to clients, to tenants, and it's amazing how much they appreciate that. And it's just like, duh, why wasn't I doing more of that before? And I think that's going to continue, because if you can't see and touch those folks, then a video is a great tool to get your thoughts and emotions across versus just an email. And then what I've noticed too is when you're remote, you're forced to rely on metrics to measure how you're doing. And for years, our scorecard has been kind of crappy, is the nice way to say it. And through this, I've been forced, I'm at home and I don't see Tim and I don't see the other department heads. Like, I need they can tell me something, but it's great when they share their spreadsheet with me and I'm looking at daily metrics, weekly metrics. And then the more I do that, the more I really understand how the company is being run. And so when clients ask me questions, I'm actually more prepared to answer questions today than I was a month ago. And that's just sloppy on my part, right? I should have been doing that the whole time too.
That's really good stuff. Let's turn to the PPP loan. What are you guys doing to make sure that this thing gets forgiven? And if you'll want to share, how much it was, and why don't you start us off, Mikey, because you mentioned it earlier.
Sure. So one of the things we did was set up a separate bank account so we can account for those funds a little more simply. I think that's going to be the biggest key to making sure that you do get it refunded, that it gets forgiven, is just having great records of how that money was spent. Because it sounds like the money up front was fairly easy to get, easy to attain, but they're probably going to be a little stricter on the back end. Maybe not right off the bat, but definitely over time. You don't want to have to pay that back if you can avoid it. So that's one of the things we're doing to kind of to set it up so we can have better accounting on the back end.
What about you guys, Duke?
Yeah, same. We had our lender is also our primary banking partner, so we went straight into a separate account they set up. We're going to just make payroll out of that. It should be pretty easy. And so basically, money should, we'll probably lose some money through this. That just lost late fees, lost rents, and so that will, our operating account go up or down based on that. But we should come out of this a winner, I would think. As long as we just make that payroll, we're not laying people off, we're paying people full 40 hours, we're doing all of that. So it should be completely forgiven, I would think.
Yeah, we're in the same boat with you guys. The only thing, we just set up like a spreadsheet just to make sure that we want to make sure we get above that 75% in terms of dollars spent on payroll, because that's a really key metric. We don't have to worry about full-time employees because we grew so much from last year. We actually are very low in terms of the average number of employees over the last 12 months through March 31st. So we have not laid off anybody. In fact, we hired 2 people. People were saying, are you going to continue to hire people? And absolutely. We've got jobs placed right now for receptionists, for people in accounting. And we're really bullish on the management business. If we can all be very focused and make sure that we survive the next, let's call it 5 to 6 months, then I think more people will be renting, more people will have to rent their homes, and we're just going to be in a really good stretch. Everybody has always said this business is recession proof, and I think we're about to get to find out whether it is or not.
That's a good point. Hey, Matthew, just so you're not always, negative connotation, you always say survive, right? I started using an Urban Meyer phrase, just above the line. We got to come out of this above the line.
Keep it above the line. Well, I'm saying survive, but I'm also saying thrive. In 6 months, it's all about thriving.
Yeah.
All right, let's switch gears because I don't want to just stick on this COVID stuff, because I do think we're all going to make it through it. And what does the back end of this look like? Let's talk about our relationships and kind of how we all met real quick. We don't need to give the quick and dirt. Well, we do need to give the quick and dirty. Not so much of the dirty, but more of the quick, Tim. And so
I'm talking too long, is what you're saying?
No, let's. I'm just said keep it at least PG-13. This.
Okay.
My wife might listen to this thing. All right, let's talk how we met and then what we do from a mastermind. We're calling it a roundtable here, but we also meet on a regular basis with our mastermind. So I think the first people that met were probably Duke and Tim and me, right? I think I actually chased y'all for a long time, and y'all were kind of big leaguing me for a long time.
We probably tried to big boy you a little bit.
Yeah. The first dinner we had was I begged y'all to go to dinner with me and Matt Lavelle at that Las Vegas meat place where they just bought us a big, huge slab of meat, and it was just like meat for dinner. You remember this?
Meat and red wine for dinner, and then an entire bottle of Tums the next morning for heartburn relief. I think it was. I think that's exactly the first time we met, and then it's evolved into, texting and every day, and then now we're doing a podcast together. And every time we go out of town, We get together, we have dinner. So we really are going to these dinners.
Serious, I would say. Yeah.
You said what?
Things have gotten serious.
Yeah.
So,
Took a while.
I remember the first time I met you, Matthew. It was a broker owner. You had your whole team there. This is the last year that we weren't allowed, that it wasn't just brokers and owners.
Am I the reason that they did that? Was that named as a reason?
The whole team there, and you like to talk, so it was always you popping up and giving an answer in the middle of the room. They did that.
Well, I had to do that if my team was there to make them think I knew all the answers.
We did. So I sat down at a table with you and Matt Cox and I forget who else, maybe Spencer. I don't know. But I definitely met you. I tracked you down because you seemed to have all the answers. So we developed our relationship there. Kind of got started. I started following you on LinkedIn, and it was amazing. You were always posting videos. One of the most active guys on LinkedIn that I've seen, definitely in our industry, but putting out good content. So I always knew you were smarter than me. So when the conference came to Orlando, when the NARPM conference in Orlando, I sought you out, and you took me around. Matthew took me around and literally introduced me to 20 different people. And it felt good because each time he's using the people skills. He's like, Mike manages way more units than I do. And it's not, none of the stuff he was saying was actually true, but it felt good. So I like Matthew. Dude.
So he's a liar. He's a liar, but he's a nice liar.
How to win friends and influence people. No, I think what I said was, at this point in my career, you got to this many units faster than I did.
Maybe.
I mean, it was only about 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. You already managed, it took me 10 years to get to where you are now after 3 or 4 years, which really pisses me off. Is it because of your association with the pack that you 100%. Got there so fast?
I owe it all to the pack. So, and then Duke and I and Tim got to know each other on a fateful night going out partying in Vegas. So randomly ran into each other in the hotel lobby and ended that night very, very late in the morning hours. So tons of fun.
I think I have a picture of Tim from that, which I won't share, but it made its industry rounds. And it was
that was a different night. That was Orlando too.
Oh my gosh, that picture from Orlando. Yeah,
We'll make that my background next podcast. It'll be right behind.
Did we have that picture still? This is not that bad of a picture.
I'm sure it's just really a funny Tim picture, especially if you know Tim. And then Vince, I met Vince at where were we, Vince? IMN?
Dallas.
IMN in Dallas. Jordan Whala put together a dinner and invited a bunch of different people to it. And I went, and we were sitting close to each other, and it was a great idea by Jordan to basically try to put together a bunch of industry leaders at a dinner. And a bunch of connections were made because I think you met Benton there that night too, didn't you, Vince?
Yeah, Benton and Jacob that night.
Yep.
Yeah, that was, and then shortly after that, I think I always heard about this Wolfpack Crew, and I was trying to figure out how to get in it. And then the first time I think we all sat down together, was it on a hot patio? And
oh my God, that was the sweatiest I've ever been in my life.
Come on.
It was at lunch.
Where was this?
It was dinner in Atlanta.
Oh no, that's right. You're right, Michael. It was in Vegas. Lunch in Vegas, right?
Yeah, but then you put together.
But dinner in Atlanta was the hottest. It was so hot.
I've ever.
And
we were just guzzling drinks just to say cool.
I think that's when I got initiated, because that's when Michael gave me my cool T-shirt that scared my wife when I came home wearing it.
That's right.
That's right.
You called us the Wolfpack, and then Mike got you one of those wolf T-shirts.
Yeah.
I will say, not to get too emo on it, but we've been doing a lot of video calls, and the industry's been coming together as a whole for the most part to try to help each other through this thing. I will say that this text chain has made me feel the most prepared for this sort of thing ever, because we were so far ahead, especially talking to people, and not to brag on ourselves, but we had discussions within this little mastermind that then we were getting on calls 2 weeks later that people were facilitating and people still had questions. So I think it's important to listen to podcasts. I think it's important to have a mastermind, a close group of people that you can talk to. I appreciate it so much. It's been a true help during this time, because I feel like I'm out ahead of it more so than I would be without you guys.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I have to, I'm indebted to Matthew. You welcomed me into this group, and you've always just been so gracious with introductions. I mean, the fact you told me about this infamous crew, and then you hands down, were great to bring me involved, and you're always good at connecting the dots, Matthew.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's funny. My whole life, I can go back to 2 or 3 people who have almost connected me with all the people in my life, and I always thought what a valuable thing that was to be able to make those connections, because the person that's the conduit for those relationships really, creates a lot of value for everybody and gets included in a lot of conversations. So let's talk about that for a second. In terms, if somebody's out there right now, I mean, I kind of pitched this idea and we couldn't really put it together for a year or a year and a half, but we had talked about, I know Duke and I and Tim had talked about putting together some sort of mastermind or roundtable that we could consistently do. And to be clear, we also meet every 6 months when COVID world's not going on, in somebody's backyard. Like, we go to somebody's office and then we're very transparent. But if somebody wanted to, obviously, we can't all include everybody that wants to be in ours, but if you wanted to start one, thoughts on how y'all would go about doing that?
I mean, I think the best way, if we're talking to just property managers here, right, is NARPM, right? You go to NARPM conferences, you get to know people that are outside of your market, so they're not competitors, but, that are around the same size, around the same level of experience as you, because they're going to encounter the same problems and that you have. That's why this thing works, is because we've all got reasonable amounts of experience and size of our companies. So we're facing issues that someone in this call has faced or is going to face. And so when you go to those conferences, get out of your comfort zone, go talk to people, meet people, go to lunch, go to dinner, and you never know what's going to, what relationship will form because of that.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. You just can't be afraid to that comfort zone thing, Duke, that you talked about. Like, you can't be afraid to ask. Like, that was the one thing all of us always had. Like, Mike just said it too. He went and sat down next to Matthew, and he's like, "Hey, what problems are you facing? What are you doing? How can you help me?" And, I'm sure there's somebody out there for somebody, right? You don't have to be as outgoing as Mike is. Even if you're an introvert, there's somebody out there that you can connect with in your way, if you're just not afraid to ask, and if you're not afraid to ask for help, which sometimes is a very difficult thing to do.
I would say that, and then couple that with actually taking their advice and then thanking them for it later is a huge piece of it, right? So I still remember the first book that Matthew recommended to me when I sat there at his table. His team had just read the book Who. But how often do people come to you and ask you advice, and then they don't take any action? And then you don't feel like helping them again. You know what I mean? One of the things that, I always try to give Matthew and Duke, Tim and Vince, all you guys, try to give you credit back instead of saying, "Oh, look how awesome I am." So anytime I do something good, I just try to put it back on the person who helped me do it. And to be honest, I've learned that from you too, you guys too. I mean, honestly, Matthew did that the whole time, walking me around. You guys are always bragging about me. So, it's just, it's a piece of that relationship, that building those relationships that Matthew's asking about, that's just so important. Take the advice and tell the person thank you and what happened because of it.
One of the things I think was, as I've been in NARPM and been around this world a long time, is I read Ray Dalio's Principles, and I'm rereading it again for no telling how many times. But one of the things he talks about is believability weighting. Tim's laughing because I always go to a book, but believability weighting.
I'm laughing because we all just, at Dotson Property Management, we just read it in the last quarter.
Yeah, I made him read it. He said it was okay. I was like, we need to read it.
I liked it.
He needs to read it at least 10 times. I mean,
but I feel like Cliff needs to read that book. Like, Cliff would take that book to the moon with all this.
Well, one of the things he talks about is believability weighting, and he says that some people aren't worthy of being able to speak into your life. Like, why do you ask everybody questions? And I think one of the things that's so valuable about our group is we've done a really good job of vetting people that are actually in the industry, working hard, doing things, versus some people that appear to be doing things, but maybe they're not, on the front lines doing it. And And I think we've worked really hard. Like, we could probably have more people in this organization, and not that we won't have more people in our group, but we've worked really hard on finding the right people that are in the grind, that are constantly every day out working really hard to make things happen.
Yeah, to Tim's point he made earlier, like when this COVID stuff happened, I looked on Facebook, but I really asked, what are you guys doing, right? Like, and we all exchange ideas, and we did what you guys are doing, and we all kind of shared ideas. Just like when you're going to a restaurant, you don't ask all your friends, is this restaurant good? You ask your restaurant friend that has good taste, is that restaurant good, right? The believability piece. And like, you got to build your mastermind or your roundtable so that believability is there, because those are the people that will influence your decisions.
So let's talk about one thing that we often talk about, which is just our problems. Outside of COVID world, what's one thing that's keeping you guys up at night?
Not COVID related.
Not COVID related. What's waking you up in the middle of the night that you're worried about?
The thing that always keeps me up at night, and I'll go first, I guess, right? Is people development. Are we developing people the right way? Are they going to develop into what we need them to become? I mean, and I think it's just because I'm lucky enough to be in a position to that's what I'm looking for right now. I need the person who runs our single family department to step up and take on specific duties. Is she ready? Is she going to be able to do a good job when I do give them to her? How does she handle it? So I think that for me is the thing that always keeps me up at night. But COVID related, so I'll also answer the question I wanted to answer. The backlog of maintenance. I got on a call with Property Mel, the folks in South Dakota the other week, and it was it was eye-opening. Ray Hespin, the CEO there, sent me some data about how many work orders aren't getting submitted, and then how many work orders aren't getting done. And I started thinking, man, if this happens in July and people start moving again, and we got turns, and suddenly we have an influx of 2-month-old work orders that have been sitting there, plus all the stuff we couldn't get to, that's going to keep me up forever, I think, now.
Wow. Mikey, what's keeping you up at night?
That's a good question. Non-COVID related, I would say our biggest issue at Atrium is probably sales pipeline. We have grown to where we are today using, just word of mouth, referral based marketing, that kind of thing. And we've for the last year basically kind of been on the hamster wheel, where as we gain a new property, we lose the property out the back door. Just because of size, right? And we're able to add as many as we're losing, but not outpace it necessarily. So for us, it's just kind of that sales pipeline. How do we increase it? It feels like, just talking to you guys might have better SEO, stronger market presence than we do. We may have more competition in our larger market. So we've got to figure out a way to generate those leads to outpace it, because we want single family to still grow. Where our real growth has come from, our boutique multifamily and our multifamily portfolios over the course of the last year. So that's it. How do we generate leads?
Vince?
Well, aside from the fact that I have a baby coming in a month, that's kind of keeping me up every night. I think for me in turn, a bit different situation than you guys, given that I'm, not the CEO of our company. I'm specifically focused on growth. So I would echo what Michael's saying. Like, I think what I'm trying to really position ourselves is to continue to provide as much value as possible for our new owners, to differentiate ourselves in each market. But also set the right expectations so our tenants are happy and just kind of the whole flow is working well. I think, with any hyper growth company, there's breaks in the chain, and that could affect churn. It could affect customer satisfaction. And what I'm trying to solve for is making sure that is pretty seamless. I think COVID aside, that's something we're always striving to do. And it's challenging. If lead flows down, then, I'm not doing my job.
And I think that's what we're all kind of experiencing right now because of COVID. Is that's the biggest outlier to me, is just lead flow of new management agreements. New management agreement opportunities is way down. I mean, we went out and hired 3, almost about to hire our 4th BDM, and then the leads just dropped off the map. We know it's going to come back because we think it's not only going to come back, but it's probably going to come back with a vengeance, just because, just like Tim's maintenance world is being held up by this COVID stuff. At some point, when there's some clarity on when the world's going to open back up, we're probably going to get an influx of a ton of leads. While I have the floor, I'll tell you mine right now is just leasing. One of the things, we're in the South, and over the last month, while everything's been on lockdown, we've had a bunch of people out leasing houses. I thought this was something that would definitely slow down. It has not slowed down at all. And in fact, it's picked up. And what I'm thinking is happening, like right now, today it's 72 degrees and sunny where I am in Alabama. And I think people are now, their kids are out of school and people are stir crazy and they're like, well, let's move. Or we were going to move in June or May. And now we've got this kind of time where we're not working, and now we can go move. And so the influx of leads is crazy. I was actually this weekend manually entering a lot of these people into our TransUnion database myself on Saturday and Sunday. So that's how crazy it's gotten. Just so that kept me up obviously at night. Duke, what keeps you up at night?
With the whole COVID thing, in a way, I've had time to think about the things I normally don't have time to worry about. And so you mentioned no man's land, and we've definitely been through it for 3 years. And for those listening, no man's land is the time period of a business where you are big enough to start needing all this infrastructure that you can't yet afford, right? So that infrastructure might mean a CFO, a COO, head of HR, head of marketing, head of IT, all these things you don't have when you're a 10-person company, but you need when you're a 500-person company. So how do you bridge that gap? And so we haven't had anybody with the word marketing in their title ever at our company. We've got a BDM, who does biz dev for single fam and for HOA, but we don't have anybody that's charged with just biz dev for multifamily commercial. We don't have anybody marketing at all. We've kind of gotten lazy when it comes to marketing because we put all of our energy into SEO, and that served us well. And then we have a good brand name in town, a lot of relationships that served us well, but we're not equipped to grow into the future. And so pre-COVID, we started looking into hiring a fractional marketing, like CMO, like a head of marketing, and possibly a full-time marketing person. We put that on hold because of COVID. And now that's what I've been envisioning is, how do we get from, what has gotten us here won't get us there. And so to get from a 100-person company to a 500-person company, we need somebody controlling the marketing engine and all things marketing, SEO, our website, branding, logo, signage, but also, social media, reputation management, all of that. It's time for us as a company to stop doing it bits and pieces at a time and have a full cohesive marketing effort. And so that's what I've been thinking about the last couple of weeks.
One of the things that is unique about all of us is we're all chasing kind of a big, hairy, audacious goal, to use Jim Collins' term, a BHAG. Talk a little bit about each organization's BHAG and what's kind of led you to get to that point. I think this will give people context. Vince, why don't you start us off?
That's a tough one. I mean, I think, our BHAG's always been growth focused. We want to grow nationwide and have a certain amount of units under management. I think our mindset, though, over the past 6 months, call it, we're digesting the growth that we've had, and we're really focused on customer service and getting our product right. I mean, given we're building out our own technology that is supposed to enable our owners to have more visibility into their assets and provide a better experience for our residents. I think, candidly, just with hyper growth, that became kind of secondary, and now we're taking a step back and kind of focusing on that as we still march towards aggressive growth goals, but ultimately we need to provide the best customer service possible. So I don't know if that answers your question, Matthew.
That's perfect. Duke, what about you guys?
So I know that Michael and Matthew have,
24K.
yeah, has specific.
I think it's 23, isn't it?
Yeah, whatever you want it to be, Matthew.
I should let y'all two go first, and then so ours. We talk here at Dotson and growing the best property management company the world has ever seen, and like because we're in multiple divisions, we have single fam, multifam, commercial, and HOA. Because we're in multiple divisions and we do development, it's not easy to put a big one number like you guys have. I love the simplicity and the cleanliness of y'all's goals, and that's awesome. I think it's easy to convey and whatever. So for us, it's a little more vague, but whatever we do, we try to be the best in the world at it. So if we're single family management in Richmond, we want to be the best in the world at that. If we do multifam in Richmond, we want to be best in the world at that. If we grow into Fredericksburg and do single fam, we want to be the best in the business there. And that's kind of what's been our guiding light is if we're going to do it, let's be the best at it. If we're not going to be the best at it, let's shed that division or and focus on what we can be good at. And so that's what drives us. So be the best property management company the world has ever seen. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, be one or two in every market. That was who was that?
Was GE, Jack Welch.
Yeah, Welch. Mikey?
So I would say that our goal always from the start has been to be the best property management company. And we haven't been able to really see past like the Southeast at this point. So that's kind of where our goal that's where our number came from. We had the benefit of going to visit Matthew before we ever set up our company's BHAG. So we love the fact that his team was able to just rattle it off and say 25, their 25K club was what they called their leadership team. And we love that. So we wanted something simple, something close to that, and but not exactly copying what Matthew had. So what happened was we did our first traction offsite leadership VTO setup, and it was about 4:30 in the evening. We had already been through an entire day of just sitting in this conference room. We're trying to come up with our big goal, and like I don't even remember how it happened, but somebody came up with the fact that Bruno Mars made this awesome song called 24 Karat Magic. And so like it just started this creative like buzz in the room. And all of a sudden our leadership team's like, yeah, and Adam puts the music video up on the screen, and it just became like, this is it. This is the goal. It's just one of those moments. So our goal became 24K. And our leadership team became 24K Club. So we're not above directly copying people who are doing something better than we do. And we also like to put our own spin on it and have fun with it. So we did a Bruno Mars video. We remade the 24 Karat Magic video. Adam will not let us put it out in case he ever decides to run for president. But it's floating around the internet somewhere. So again, kind of our goal was to be the best. So we want to offer world-class customer service. But we use that goal as just kind of like the quick, easy, everybody's rowing in the right direction type of saying.
Mikey's was very magical how they arrived at theirs. Ours was not magical at all. We were just in a hotel room. There were three of us, and we were like, what's the most we can ever imagine, most homes we can ever imagine managing? Somebody said 25,000. 100,000 seemed way too big. 10,000 seemed way too small, so we arrived at 25,000. There was like zero magic, and the magic's been made since then. We've been now on this journey for almost 6 years, and we're about 4.5 years left to get there. And it's created momentum and created magic. So that's our goal, is 25K. All right. Well, guys, this was fun. First podcast. I want us to kind of stop right here so that we'll actually have enough content for a second podcast. So please subscribe wherever you podcast. We're going to post this in all the different podcast places, and leave us a review. If you like this, tell other people about it. If you don't like it, I guess don't leave us a review. I don't know. Or leave us a review then too about how we can make it better. This is the Property Management Roundtable.